In January 2021, a handsome leading man at the center of prestige, cinema, and studio franchises became a trending headline for all the wrong reasons. Leaked messages, graphic, violent, and laced with cannibal fantasies, collided with multiple women's accusations of coercion and assault. And Armie Hammer's career imploded almost overnight. Within weeks, he exited a Jennifer Lopez film, Shotgun Wedding, fell away from a high-profile series, The Offer, quit Broadway's The Minutes, and watched representation evaporate as Hollywood distanced itself from its once golden era. The spectacle only grew. Discovery Plus launched the 3-part docuseries House of Hammer in 2022, amplifying allegations and dragging generations of family secrets into the spotlight. In 2023, after a long inquiry, the Los Angeles County District Attorney declined to file charges in a prominent case, yet the stain on Hammer's image remained. By 2024-2025, he began speaking publicly, hinting at sobriety, accountability, and a tentative return to work signs of a possible second act that split public opinion all over again. What really happened between the A-list ascent and the sudden freefall? And if the justice system said no case, why does the court of public opinion still feel like a life sentence? Armie Hammer was born Armand Douglas Hammer on the 28th of August 1986 in Santa Monica, California, into a family where power, privilege, and controversy were already written into the lineage. His father, Michael Armand Hammer, was a wealthy businessman, and his mother, Drew Ann Mobley, came from a devoutly religious background in Oklahoma. But the name that loomed largest was his great-grandfather, Armie Hammer, the oil magnate and philanthropist whose vast fortune built the Hammer Museum in Los Angeles and cemented the family as one of America's dynasties. Growing up in the shadow of that legacy was both a blessing and a curse. On the surface, Armie had access to a world of privilege, private schools, luxury homes in Los Angeles and the Cayman Islands, and the aura of old money. Yet, the Hammer family was also infamous for internal rivalries, financial scandals, and whispers of corruption. Discovery Plus' House of Hammer would later unspool generations of family dysfunction, painting a picture of wealth intertwined with secrecy. For Armie himself, childhood was turbulent. His family moved frequently, including several years in the Cayman Islands, where he described a more laid-back, sun-soaked adolescence. But when the family returned to Los Angeles, the weight of expectation grew heavier. His father disapproved of acting, urging him toward business, while his mother encouraged faith and conservatism. Armie, however, felt the pull of performance from an early age. He often spoke of feeling like the black sheep of the Hammer clan, uninterested in boardrooms or finance, drawn instead to storytelling and the spotlight. Teachers remembered him as charming, restless, and at times rebellious, traits that foreshadowed both his rise as a movie star and the turbulence that would later engulf his personal life. From the beginning, Armie Hammer's story was one of duality: the polished heir of a powerful family and the restless son determined to carve his own path. That tension between legacy and individuality would define not only his career, but also the way the public interpreted his spectacular fall. Armie Hammer's path to acting was neither straightforward nor supported by his family. Raised in privilege, he attended elite private schools in Los Angeles, including Grace Christian Academy and later Los Angeles Baptist High School. But by his late teens, Hammer grew restless. He admitted that while his peers were preparing for traditional careers, he was consumed by the dream of performance. Against his parents' wishes, he dropped out of high school in 11th grade to pursue acting full-time, an act of rebellion that severed him from the life his father had envisioned. Early years in Hollywood were marked by struggle. Hammer took odd jobs, studied with acting coaches, and endured rejection while auditioning for small roles. His tall frame and striking features made him stand out. But Hollywood is littered with handsome hopefuls, and breaking through required persistence. He began booking guest appearances on television shows like Arrested Development 2005, Veronica Mars 2006, and Desperate Housewives 2007. These brief parts pay the bills but did little to establish him as a star. Hammer's first significant role arrived in 2008, when he was cast as Billy Graham in the biographical drama Billy: The Early Years. Though the film received little attention, critics noted Hammer's earnestness and screen presence. It was a step toward credibility, proof that he could carry a project even if only on a modest scale. He also endured setbacks. Casting directors often label him too tall or too aristocratic for certain roles, and he fought the perception that he was another wealthy kid dabbling in Hollywood. Hammer worked hard to shed that image, taking whatever roles he could find to prove his dedication. By 2010, his persistence paid off. Director David Fincher cast him in The Social Network as the Winklevoss twins, a dual role that required technical wizardry and sharp comedic timing. The performance was widely praised, establishing Hammer not only as a rising actor but as someone capable of nuance beyond his looks. This was a turning point that transformed him from an aspiring actor into one of Hollywood's most promising new faces. Armie Hammer's real breakthrough came with The Social Network 2010. Cast by David Fincher as Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, the patrician Harvard twins who sued Mark Zuckerberg over Facebook's origins, Hammer delivered a performance that was both technically impressive and sharply satirical. Through the magic of visual effects, he played both brothers, capturing their polished arrogance and icy entitlement. Critics singled him out, praising his ability to hold his own in a film packed with standout performances. Overnight, Hammer graduated from promising newcomer to serious talent. Hollywood quickly embraced him as its new golden boy. He seemed to embody the classic matinee idol, tall, square-jawed, and charismatic, yet capable of delivering layered performances. In 2011, he starred opposite Leonardo DiCaprio in Clint Eastwood's J. Edgar, portraying Clyde Tolson, rumored lover and confidant of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. The role earned him praise for its subtlety and vulnerability, showing range beyond his privileged good looks. Big budget offers followed. Hammer played Prince Andrew Alcott in Miro 2012, a lavish reimagining of Snow White, and headlined The Lone Ranger 2013, alongside Johnny Depp. Though the latter was a critical and commercial failure, Hammer emerged largely unscathed, with reviewers noting his charm even if the film faltered. His reputation as a versatile actor grew with independent projects. In 2016, he starred in The Birth of a Nation, a Sundance breakout, and earned acclaim for his performance in the psychological thriller Mine. But it was Call Me By Your Name 2017 that cemented his place in cinematic history. As Oliver, a 4-year-old graduate student who begins a summer romance with a teenage boy played by Timothée Chalamet, Hammer gave a performance marked by warmth, sensuality, and aching restraint. The film became an international sensation, earning Oscar nominations and critical reverence. For many, it was the pinnacle of Hammer's career, a role that should have launched him into Hollywood's elite. By this point, Hammer was a fixture on red carpets and magazine covers, celebrated as a rare combination of old Hollywood glamour and contemporary depth. He balanced commercial projects with art house acclaim, navigating both worlds with ease. Directors praised his professionalism, and fans adored his charisma. Yet, beneath the sheen of success, cracks were forming. Hammer often spoke candidly about feeling trapped by his privileged image, joking that Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with him. Rumors swirled about restlessness in his personal life and dissatisfaction with Hollywood politics. Still, few could have predicted how quickly his glittering trajectory would collapse. Armie Hammer had achieved what most actors only dream of: breakout roles, critical acclaim, and international recognition. But his rise was not the end of his story. It was a dramatic setup for a fall that would shock both Hollywood and the world. While Armie Hammer's professional life soared, his personal relationships were equally central to his public image. In 2010, he married television personality and entrepreneur Elizabeth Chambers, a union that appeared to cement his status as Hollywood's golden boy. Together, they became a picture-perfect couple. Glamorous red carpet appearances, glowing magazine spreads, and eventually 2 children, a daughter, Harper, born in 2014, and a son, Ford, born in 2017. Hammer often spoke admiringly of Chambers, crediting her with grounding him amid the chaos of fame. To outsiders, theirs looked like a modern fairy tale, a handsome movie star and his elegant wife building a family while navigating the demands of Hollywood. For nearly a decade, the marriage projected stability, contrasting with the more tumultuous personal lives of Hammer's peers. But behind the polished facade, tensions brewed. Hammer later admitted that balancing his career with family life was challenging. Long film shoots kept him away from home for months, and rumors of infidelity followed him throughout his marriage. By 2020, the couple announced a separation, describing the decision as amicable but deeply painful. Their divorce proceedings, finalized in 2023, revealed a more complicated story, custody battles, financial strain, and emotional distance that had widened over years. After the separation, Hammer's personal life became a tabloid spectacle. In 2020 and 2021, leaked Instagram DMs and voice notes alleged that Hammer engaged in extreme sexual fantasies, including domination and cannibalism roleplay. Several women came forward accusing him of emotional abuse, coercion, and violent sexual encounters. While Hammer insisted all interactions were consensual, the allegations painted him as manipulative and predatory. The scandal engulfed not just his career, but also his reputation as a husband and father. Elizabeth Chambers, though measured in her public comments, expressed support for victims and emphasized her priority was protecting their children. Their once idyllic marriage became a focal point of the wider narrative. How a seemingly perfect Hollywood relationship unraveled under the weight of secrets and scandal. Hammer's love life, once an asset to his carefully cultivated image, became the epicenter of his downfall. What had begun as a story of romance and family values spiraled into one of betrayal, exposure, and irreparable damage. The scandal that consumed Armie Hammer's career began in early 2021, when anonymous Instagram accounts leaked screenshots of graphic direct messages allegedly sent by the actor. The content was shocking. Fantasies of domination, violence, and even cannibalism. Whether real or fabricated, the messages exploded across social media. And within days, Hammer's name was synonymous with Hollywood's darkest headlines. What might have been dismissed as bizarre roleplay quickly escalated when multiple women came forward with allegations of abuse. Several described relationships with Hammer that began with charm but soon turned coercive. They accused him of manipulating, gaslighting, and pressuring them into sexual acts that crossed boundaries. One woman alleged rape, prompting an LAPD investigation. Hammer denied all wrongdoing, insisting that his sexual encounters were consensual. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Within weeks, Hammer withdrew or was forced out of nearly every project on his slate. He exited Shotgun Wedding, a romantic comedy with Jennifer Lopez, citing personal reasons. Paramount removed him from the offer, a miniseries about the making of The Godfather. He left the Broadway production of The Menace and was dropped by both his talent agency WME and his publicist. In less than a month, Hammer went from A-list star to unemployable pariah. The scandal was further amplified by House of Hammer 2022, a Discovery Plus docuseries that featured testimony from women who accused Hammer of abuse as well as revelations about the Hammer family's troubled history. The series painted a picture of generational dysfunction, linking Armie's alleged behavior to patterns of power, wealth, and secrecy stretching back decades. For audiences, it was confirmation that Hammer was not just an individual gone astray, but part of a dynasty tainted by corruption. Legal consequences proved murkier. In 2023, after a lengthy investigation, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office announced it would not pursue criminal charges against Hammer in the rape case, citing insufficient evidence. For Hammer, this was a partial reprieve, but by then, the damage to his reputation was irreversible. To many, not guilty was not the same as innocent. The scandal raised larger questions about consent, power dynamics, and the blurred line between private fantasies and abuse. Hammer's defenders argued that he was being vilified for consensual kinks taken out of context, while his accusers insisted the relationships were marked by manipulation and exploitation. The public was deeply divided, but Hollywood itself was unequivocal. Hammer was toxic. The major breakdown of Armie Hammer's life was not simply professional, it was existential. A man who had once been celebrated as a new face of classic Hollywood now found himself exiled. A cautionary tale of how quickly reputations can implode in the digital age. Whether victim of a ruthless media cycle or architect of his own destruction, Hammer's scandal redefined his career and cast a permanent shadow over his legacy. When the scandal reached its peak in 2021, Armie Hammer's career was effectively over. Overnight, the actor once hailed as Hollywood's next leading man became untouchable. Projects collapsed one after another. Shotgun Wedding with Jennifer Lopez recast his role. Paramount Plus erased him from the offer, and his Broadway return in the minutes evaporated. His talent agency, WME, cut ties, and his publicist dropped him. Even outside of work, his name was radioactive, tabloids ran daily updates, memes flooded social media, and Hammer became shorthand for disgrace. Financially, the collapse was catastrophic. Reports circulated in 2022 that Hammer was working at a resort in the Cayman Islands selling timeshares to make ends meet. Though initially dismissed as rumor, it was later confirmed, symbolizing just how far the actor had fallen. The image of the once glamorous star reduced to a service job became one of the most striking before and after stories in modern Hollywood. Legally, Hammer was spared the harshest outcome. In 2023, prosecutors declined to pursue rape charges, citing insufficient evidence. While this meant he avoided prison, it did little to restore his reputation. The narrative had already solidified. Hammer was seen by many as a predator, and not guilty did not equate to redemption. Still, by 2024-2025, Hammer began signaling attempts at a comeback. He gave carefully crafted interviews, admitting to substance abuse and infidelity, while denying criminal behavior. He spoke about therapy, sobriety, and taking responsibility for the ways he hurt people emotionally. The tone was one of contrition, framed not as a bid for immediate forgiveness, but as an effort to rebuild his life privately and slowly. Whispers also emerged about new work. Independent filmmakers reportedly considered casting him in low-budget projects, gambling that controversy might bring attention. Hammer himself hinted at writing and producing as a way to re-enter the industry without relying on studio backing. The reception, however, was divided. Supporters argued that everyone deserves a second chance after accountability. Detractors insisted his return would re-traumatize victims and tarnish Hollywood's progress on abuse. The consequences of the scandal are permanent. Hammer lost his career momentum, much of his wealth, and the trust of an industry that once embraced him. His attempted comeback is fragile, reliant on both cultural amnesia and his ability to prove growth. Whether he rises again or remains a cautionary tale depends on whether audiences and Hollywood can separate the man's art from the shadow of his scandal. As of 2025, Armie Hammer remains one of Hollywood's most polarizing figures. Though the Los Angeles District Attorney declined to press criminal charges in 2023, the court of public opinion has not been as forgiving. His name still carries the weight of scandal. And in an industry where reputation is currency, Hammer's is badly devalued. Professionally, he has yet to secure a major return. Rumors of independent projects circulate, but no studio has publicly committed to him. Instead, Hammer has focused on rebuilding his personal life. In recent interviews, he has spoken about sobriety, therapy, and rediscovering his priorities as a father to his 2 children with ex-wife Elizabeth Chambers. He frames his past as a cautionary tale about ego, excess, and addiction, though his insistence on consensual encounters continues to spark debate. Culturally, his story lingers as both spectacle and parable. Documentaries like House of Hammer ensure his legacy will always be tied to the darker history of his wealthy family and the allegations against him. Yet some observers question whether he is an emblem of cancel culture gone too far, punished beyond what the evidence proved, or a man who escaped harsher accountability because of wealth and privilege. What is clear is that Hammer now lives in limbo. He is neither fully condemned nor fully redeemed, caught between exile and the faint hope of reinvention. His present is marked less by stardom than by survival, by the daily work of repairing a life shattered in public. And the ending? That remains unwritten. Will Armie Hammer manage a true comeback, reclaiming his place on screen and reshaping his narrative? Or will he forever stand as a cautionary tale, a reminder that fame, power, and secrecy can combust in spectacular and irreversible ways?